The one, the original, the toy that launched a franchise, the greatest Prime out there. Speaking of which, do we still have our Amazon account? Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and we're kicking off a relaunch of many of my reviews from the Generation 1 era, since many of those reviews were done quite a number of years ago, and frankly, many of them, due to my inexperience at that time, did kinda suck. So, we're taking a new look at some of them, and we'll kick it off with the toy that started it all. Optimus Prime. Now, this is the first release of Optimus. It came out in 1984, and it would also be on retail shelves in 1985. He would leave retail at 1986 and would become an exclusive mail-away figure. During an early part of that, he would be available with a gold certificate. That would be done through a special promo package that would have been sent out to many fans around the time of the release of the 1986 animated film. This version of Optimus Prime would leave shelves in 1987 totally. We would not see that one again, but it would be a short-lived departure. We'll shift some of these out of the way. Because in 1988, Prime would return to the toy line as a Power Master figure. In fact, Prime would be the one that would be the most advertised of the figures to help push the new feature. He came with a special small engine figure that, as the toys advertised, you could plug in to the vehicle mode and it would unlock his ability to transform. Unfortunately, the marketing for those would kind of backfire due to the fact that it led to the impression that if this piece was lost, the toy would forever be locked in the mode that it was in. The instructions for the toy clearly point out that there is a small tab that you can hit with your fingers to unlock the transformation. Interestingly enough, in the Japanese lore, this was not known as Optimus Prime, or Convoy as he was called in Japan. This character would be a separate, entirely new character called Genrai. And in Japan, he would be sold like this, or there would be a special set where he came with an extra figure called the God Bomber. In the Super God Master Force anime, Genrai and God Bomber could combine together to form God Genrai. And I do have a reissue of one of those toys. Actually, I have a modern version of that toy I've never reviewed yet. I ought to get around to that sometime. Getting back to Prime, though, in 1990, Prime would return again to the toy line as an Action Master, like many of the other earlier characters. Prime would be the largest of the Action Master toys available. He came with the Armored Convoy, which basically gave him a transforming tractor-trailer rig. We just got the tractor out here at the moment. Having the trailer out here would kind of fill up the table a bit. When Optimus Prime was first created by Takara, the toy was sold in Japan under the Car Robots series that Takara was putting out through their Diaclone line. In that line, he was known as the Battle Convoy, and surprisingly, he was released in 1983, 1 year before the toy would go on to find greatness as Optimus Prime. In fact, this version here of Optimus Prime is one of the few toys manufactured in the 80s that is still in relative production. There are numerous variations of this toy available throughout the years and are special exclusives. Primarily they are in Japan, though. So for those of us who don't have the fortune of being in Japan, we're going to have to pay out some serious money to get them. Probably explains why I don't have any of them. But while I also don't have an original version of the Battle Convoy, I have something almost as good. I have this checklist of the car robots. And you see right up here at top, it highlights the Battle Convoy. But you can see many future Transformers are in here. Like there's Prowl, Smokescreen, Hound, and Jazz. And over here on the other side, you can see Mirage. And what looks to probably be Blue Streak back here behind the trailer. The series was known for having little tiny figures, you can see one of them right here, that would fit inside the vehicles or work in tandem with them. As you can see here on the roller car that came with Optimus, there is a little guy sitting in there. Of course, down below here we can see some more of the guys. Once again, here's a version of Jazz, but it's in gray. There's Sideswipe, Mirage, and Wheeljack. You go down even further, you can see other variants, like there's a version of Sunstreaker in red, and as a police car. There's a version of Ironhide, Ratchet, Trailbreaker, a red version of Skids, which down here there is a black version of Skids, Blue Streak in his proper blue color, Hoist is over here but in red instead of the green that we got, Inferno, Smokescreen, Hound, and Prowl. Of course, on the back side of this is the instructions for the toy. So, a rather interesting thing, especially since you can see here on the trailer, it had a large Diaclone logo on the trailer. It kind of shows some different play methods here with him. You can use the trailer as a service bay for the robot. Down here at the bottom, it shows that the trailer can actually hold 3 vehicles when it's all opened up. And that if you wanted to, you could even have this unit here, whatever you would want to think of it as, it can be protruding from the top of the trailer. So all in all, we got some interesting little play features here with this. Definitely something that you don't see every day. Alright, let's take a look at some of the things here. We'll start here with the command deck, as the trailer is often referred to as. It's primarily filled with a lot of stickers in it. But it still has a lot of the little seated areas that would have held some of the Diaclone minifigures. Even the cockpit on this thing, on this weapons platform, that's what I'm going to think of it as. It opens up, and it even has a seat in there for a figure. We got a rotating dish of some sort, and it does have a flexible joint. And down here we got a claw arm. It's got a shoulder joint, it's got an elbow joint. And you can even open up the claw. And of course, it has a little launcher here that's intended for roller. Or even in its original state, it could have launched some of the other Transformers out. But Unfortunately, Hasbro did neuter it, so the launch is less than impressive. Now, I should point out that there is a variant to the trailer. There's a variant to a lot of things here with Optimus Prime. But there is a variant of the trailer. The floor can either be made of metal or plastic. And then now we'll take a look here at Roller. Roller appears to be a 4-seater vehicle, because he's got little pegs in there that the little figure's legs would have went around. That would have helped hold them in place. But Roller here apparently can carry 4 people, 2 facing forward and the other 2 facing the back. Once again, the little pump fell off of this thing. Get sick of that. I'm going to take it off. Unfortunately, it would have been nice if Roller came with a few more stickers other than these here for the headlights, because it makes Roller look kind of plain, but at least he can roll down the ramp. Sort of good. Let's get that pump up off the floor before I forget it's there. There's some more variants to the parts with Roller, but we'll cover that here in a little bit when we go over Prime's accessories. And then let's take a look at Prime himself. The iconic figure that we all know and love. Of course, part of the love that comes to Prime was, of course, the portrayal of him in the 1980s animated series. Prime was voiced by voice actor Peter Cullen, who also does continue to voice Prime in a lot of the different media. He has voiced Prime in most of the live-action films, and has done a fair number of the video games, and many of the newer animated series still feature him as the Autobot leader. Some lesser-known roles for Cullen has also included being the voice of the evil Car on Knight Rider. Cullen voiced Car on Car's first appearance in Season 1. The actor who did reprise the role in Season 3 was not Cullen, so somebody else did it, and it was uncredited. Although Cullen did return to voice Car in the 2000s remake of Knight Rider. Cullen also gave the vocals to the Predator featured in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. So yeah, the cussing bits that you hear, that's Optimus Prime cussing at Arnold Schwarzenegger. Take a moment to think about that, my friends. Alright, before we get too far in, let's take a look at the articulation on Optimus Prime. And, of course, back in the day that these were made, articulation was minimal. You can rotate his arms at the shoulder all the way around. His arms do bend at the elbow 90 degrees. And you can basically bend his knees backward like so. And that's about it. So, that's the articulation of the great Optimus Prime. Here's a look at all the accessories that Optimus Prime came with. Part of what makes this a little bit complicated for getting them is not only due to the fact that he has so many, excuse me, is the fact that just about every piece has a variant to it. There are 2 pieces in this that do not have a variant available. The first one is, of course, the fuel pump. Now, this is actually the nozzle. Okay, the fuel nozzle here does not have a variant. This, I guess, is so you can pretend you're gassing up the troops. And of course, the other variant, the other piece that has no variant, is this rubber hose. For the obvious reason that, of course, my friends over in the G.I. Joe community all know the pain it is about getting and keeping rubber hoses, as many of their action figures did come with rubber hoses. Alright, now we'll take a look at all these other pieces, and I'm going to show you the variants along with them. We'll start with Optimus's gun, which is known in the media as an ionic blaster. Of course, the biggest gripe many people have with it is right here against my thumb is the proper grip for the gun, but Optimus holds it here on this post that is protruding in front of the grip, which means that his hand is in front of the trigger. So he shouldn't be able to properly shoot his gun. And this is the standard version of his gun. And then what I have here is what is known as the bloated version of his gun. Bloated version has a little more detail, so I do kind of like it a little bit more, but this is just so you know it is out there. Right over here we have the fuel pump itself. This is the piece that connects on the back of Roller. Only has the hole here on one side. And of course, there is a bloated version of it. And again, the bloated version does have a little more detail to it than the regular version. Prime also has two hands. This is his right hand. And of course, just for sakes, there's the left hand, so that way you can see him. And of course, he has a bloated version of his hand. It's about the same size height-wise, but as you can see, the width of the hand is considerably bigger. And yes, there is one for the left hand. I will show it to you for comparison's sake. That way nobody can complain to me that I didn't show it, even though it should be pretty obvious. Next up are these missiles. As you can see, there are 4 of them. See, right here, 1, 2, 3, and right here's number 4. There are 4 missiles. They normally come in black. And they don't come bloated, but there is a gray variant. And the gray variant uses a slightly different mold, since as you can see when I bring it up close, the ring at the bottom of the missile, there's only one ring on the black missiles, but the silver missiles have 2 rings. Plus, of course, the shaft on the silver missiles here has some lines running through it, whereas on the black one, it has nothing. But they're reasonably about the same size, so they're not bloated or anything. And then, of course, there is Roller. And for completion's sake, Roller should have 6 tires on him. Now, Roller does have variants as well. While they're not bloated, he does come in 3 different colors. The most common color is this light blue color that you're seeing here. But he also has a dark blue version, which is a little more uncommon to find. It's got the fuel pump attached to the back. That's the way I got it. And there is a rare silver variant. Kind Kind of like the silver variant more due to the fact it was the one featured in the cartoon, but this just shows all the pieces that are out there. So as you can see, finding a complete Optimus Prime is a chore. Okay, now that we got all the accessories removed still, we'll get Prime transformed. We'll start here with the trailer, just to get it out of the way. You go here to the battle platform's tower gun, or weapons platform. Fold the radar dish down so it's laying down on top of it. The claw arm, will close the claw up and fold it back at the elbow, because it should hang underneath like so. And then we will stretch it out in full to lay down on the floor. And then you can raise the sides of the trailer up. If you've got that down low enough, it will close. The trailer will close up. Then all you got to do is come back here and close the door. Some people say the door should be considered a loose part because it is relatively easy to get out. I'm not going to show you that on mine, but this way you can get a good look at the door. And then once that's done, you can fold these blue pieces inside, and the trailer's all set. Now we'll come here and we'll take a look at Prime. As you notice, the hands obviously have to be removed. We come up here, we'll take his head and rotate it so that it folds in like so. Take his arms at the shoulders, fold them to his back, and then press them in. Rotate his arms at the elbows so they go in at the sides. Come down here and fold his feet down, and then fold his legs down at the hips. And then there you have it. Prime is in his alternate mode of a Freightliner cab-over engine semi-truck. Now, if many of you were in the theaters when Bumblebee was released, you probably got to see a lot of the fans cheering when they saw Bumblebee in his Camaro form drive up near the end of the movie alongside a red and gray Freightliner truck. So it's even though they originally wanted it to have the Autobot insignia, I'm a lot more proud that they switched it to the Freightliner logo. That way it could be a better reference to the classic toy. And of course, there's a post right here on the back near his feet, and that should connect to this hole set up in the trailer. And then there you have it. Autobots, roll out. And of course, since it's not a solid connection, it means that you can easily shift Prime or the trailer to simulate turning. Now that makes for some fun. That I gotta tell you, that makes for some good fun. Especially back in the day when we were young, innocent, carefree, didn't have a care in the world. Could sit around and spend all day playing with your toys. Nowadays, if you do that, people think you're weird. Probably why I don't socialize with my neighbors too much. Alright. Now, of course, since Optimus Prime has been a popular character with the Transformer lineup, there have been numerous toys made of him. One that I should point out from the Generation 1 era is the ever-famous Pepsi Optimus Prime. There were two versions of that toy released, and all it really did was it had a change in the trailer. In the US release, we got a small sticker that would go somewhere along here on the side of the trailer. I think they meant for you to use it to cover up the Autobot insignia, but the one I remember seeing had it right about in here near the back of the trailer. Then there's, of course, the Canadian one, which I liked better. It had a large sticker that covered the entirety of the trailer, so it made it more convincing that Optimus was hauling Pepsi. Lo and behold, we already had one brought. No, Larry, you can't have it back. Well, I did have a friend a number of years back that was going to send me their Pepsi Prime to show it off, but that never happened. Major bummer, but whatever. But as I was saying, there are numerous Prime toys that have been released. There are way, way, way too many to list in this video. In fact, even trying to do so would be a video or two in unto itself. But I will show off a few of the Optimus Primes that I have in my collection. Right here is the Titans Return Optimus Prime. This one had Prime as a triple changer. He became a passenger airplane and a tanker truck. Mainly because of the fact that his mold was shared with Octone. And then, of course, some of the more recent ones that came out. This is the one from Siege, War for Cybertron. This was kind of the general release one, and it had battle damage paint on it. There was a variant of this figure released at Walmart stores around Christmas that year that had it done up more in cartoon colors. So the battle damage was gone, and a lot of the colors were brighter on him to better facilitate him resembling the 1980s cartoon version. The Siege line also produced a second Optimus Prime. This is the Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime. That was based on a toy from a previous line. This one here was just basically a retooling of Ultra Magnus. Because the cab is relatively the same cab that was used for Ultra Magnus, and they went with the same premise with the trailer. As it breaks up and forms the armor that goes around him. I mean, even the legs here on Prime and the black guns are very similar to the ones that came with Ultra Magnus. Then, of course, there was the following year, we got the Earthrise version of Optimus Prime. This was the first Prime in a number of years to finally include a trailer. The initial excitement over that kind of waned quickly to complaints due to the fact that Hasbro added the trailer, and this Prime was basically the size of a Voyager class figure, but they charged leader class prices for him. So I understand some of the gripes, but I still liked the toy. Then in the following year for Kingdom, we got a Core Class Optimus Prime, which basically just gave us a small version of the character. Obviously, Hasbro seems to think we all still want it, since so far both years of Legacy have also had this figure in it. Kinda, Hasbro Prime's popular, yes, but he ain't that popular. Please. For the final wave of Legacy, retire him! Then, of course, in Legacy Evolution, we got the Laser Optimus Prime. This was based off of a toy from the Generation 2 era. And, of course, I caught some heat for actually saying I liked this toy, but I didn't have the Generation 2 version. I found this one to be a nice representation of it. Granted, it doesn't have the sound box, but then again, finding some of the toys from back then with still working sound boxes is a chore unto itself. And of course, I have a couple of studio figures. Right here is Optimus as he appeared in the second live-action film, Revenge of the Fallen. This so far is the only live-action movie Optimus Prime that I have. I wanted to get the Dark of the Moon version with the jetpack, and naturally, by the time I could afford the reissued one, I couldn't find it anymore. And of course, not too long ago, as many of you will remember, we took a look at this Prime from the War for Cybertron video games. This is the Studio Series version. And out of a lot of them, this was one of them that I actually liked. I can see some of the resemblance between it and the Generation 1 version. Mind you, there is always room for improvement. But now we get down to my thoughts. What do I think of the original Optimus Prime? Well, I gotta say that I still love it. I always loved this toy as a child, even though I never had this version as a child, but I always loved it. I knew some other kids in my school classes that had it, so I enjoyed getting to play with it when I had the chance. But this is definitely a toy from our time, from our period back in the day. It was simple, yes. Was it easy to lose the parts? Most definitely. Is it a classic? Yes. There's no denying how iconic this version of Optimus Prime has become over the years. And seeing as versions of him are still being made to this day, that is a testament to how popular Optimus Prime and his Japanese counterpart Convoy remain to fans. Of course, as stated earlier, a lot of that goes down to how he was portrayed in the cartoon. Peter Cullen said in numerous interviews that when he was given the opportunity for the role, he talked about it with his brother, who had been a veteran of the Vietnam conflict. The advice his brother gave him was to actually be a hero. And for many of us growing up, Optimus was a hero. Probably more than that, he was likely a second father to many of us, since he did have a lot of words of wisdom and did fight with a code of honor. When he was killed during the events of the second of the animated film, that devastated a lot of us. Hasbro really didn't have any idea of what they were doing when they decided to kill many of the major characters. But of course, due to the backlash that they got from Prime's death, they quickly rewrote the G.I. Joe movie to save Duke, saying that instead he went into a coma, despite the fact that he suffered a fatal injury. G.I. Joe must have Star Wars era medical stuff. But at any rate, this toy does remain popular. It's still being made in different variations and colors to this day. That's a testament to a popular toy. And that's my review of the original Generation 1 Optimus Prime. I hope you all enjoyed it. And please do remember that if you love the content we feature here on this channel, I would appreciate a like, a share, and a comment. And also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. More Generation 1 reviews are coming this year. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later. Okay, let's take a moment here and we're going to take a look at Prime's tech spec card. It's done up all in red to show that he is an Autobot. It even says Autobot above his picture. This picture would have been similar to one featured on the front of the box. I unfortunately don't have one. It lists his function as Commander, strangely enough. It wouldn't be until the Power Master one where it would change his function to Leader. Unfortunately, by the time the Action Master came out 2 years after that, it switched back to Commander. And it has a quote associated with Optimus: "Freedom is the right of all sentient beings." Optimus Prime is the largest, strongest, and wisest of all Autobots. Feels his role is the protection of all life, including Earth life. Fights unceasingly to defeat the Decepticons. Splits into 3 autonomous modules. 1, Optimus Prime, the brain center known as the Commander. 2, Roller, the Autobot scout car, a spy who operates up to 1,200 miles away. And 3, Autobot headquarters, the combat deck equipped with a versatile mechanic/artillery robot. Injury to one module is felt by the other 2. Now, that was somewhat covered in the cartoon, but a lot of it was mainly forgotten about. And unlike some of it, I think it was probably for the best that a lot of it got forgotten. Although I think they could have made more use of Roller in the series. I understand I'm not bothering with the combat deck there. I mean, they set up the Ark as their headquarters, so turning this into their headquarters kind of got redundant. Then now we'll take a look here at the grid. Normally you would need a decoder to read it, but I can see the gray line pretty well. He gives his strength as 10, his intelligence is 10, his speed is 8, his endurance is 10, his rank is 10, his courage is 10, his firepower is 8, and his skill is 7. So Optimus is more than suited for his job.